Hi, Dino. Thank you very much for accepting my invitation to the secret sauce of property managers. I'm very excited to have you on the podcast. You're based in Switzerland and you have around 150 rentals at the moment. You're one of Rentals United customers, so thank you very much for that. And your company is called Walqinn. So I'd love to hear everything about it. But first of all, let's start with you. Tell us briefly what you're doing at Walqinn and what you were doing before. How did you get into this industry?
Hi, Vanessa, and thanks for having me. It's very exciting to be part of your podcast. At the moment, I'm working as a CEO of Walqinn, a company I founded together with my partner. I come from Balkans, and prior to starting Walqinn, I studied in Switzerland. I studied real estate finance and revenue management. My work experience is mostly from the hotel sector. I used to work in hotels in Switzerland, in Croatia, in many different positions. And while working in the hotels, I worked in the different kind of the hotels that target different segments. I worked in the luxury hotels, in the kind of classic business city hotels. And while doing that, I realized at the time that although hotels do offer some amazing perks and they have some target segments which they service very well, they lack of the innovation and they don't capture the new generation of travelers who think a little bit different. They want authentic experiences and think outside of the box. And that's how I spotted the opportunity to develop Walqinn. I started while still I was studying and working. I started taking first properties in my hometown. I quickly grew to 7 properties and wanted to make it a kind of passive business for myself. Because I had the job offer in banking to stay in Switzerland, but my partner luckily convinced me to refuse it and to start creating a brand together, and it has been a hell of a journey.
You say luckily, so you're passionate about what
Yeah.
you do. I can hear that. So what is the brand? Tell us about it. What is Walqinn?
So Walqinn is an accommodation provider and real estate operator at the same time. We are working with both travelers and real estate owners. We have those two important stakeholders, and we are doing our best to be a relevant player for both of them. On the one side, we want to create timeless hospitality concepts that really capture the new way people live, work, and travel. And on the other side, we want to be a safe partner for real estate investors and help them maximize their returns on the investments. But I guess at this point, you are more interested about the guest side. And when it comes to the guest side, we target many different segments. It's mostly because we manage different kind of properties as well. So we manage everything from 20 square meters student apartment, which is perfect for short stays, to 200 square meters state-of-the-art penthouse, one of which has been featured in Forbes as well as one of the properties to visit in Europe. And our customers come from all over the world, obviously, and the Walqinn community is really a mix of the business professional digital nomads on one side who stay with us typically for 1 month and longer, and on the other side, travelers who are typically there for short stays, and they are more active during the summer season when there is more leisure activity. And it's no matter how long the guests stay with us, it's all about crafting an amazing experience and making sure that traveling is hassle-free and pleasant. And our main goal is to make people feel like at home and the part of the community whenever they stay with Walqinn and wherever they are.
Thank you. Sorry, I put myself on mute, so we can concentrate on you. And so that's you already touched on a lot of things that I want to clarify with you, because I think they'd be interesting for our listeners. One is that you mentioned digital nomads and you mentioned low season and high season, right? So was this an approach from day one since you founded the company that you would target digital nomads in the low season and travelers in the high season?
I would say yes and no. We always had this idea in mind, but in the beginning, when we had a little properties, it was quite difficult to target certain groups, especially when it comes to, I would not say digital nomads, but to corporate clients actually. And when we didn't have a wide portfolio to offer to them, it was difficult to capture this demand, and we were relying more on the tourism segment, and it resulted obviously in a higher seasonality, and we wanted to make sure to kind of balance it out.
And all these properties are in tons of locations, right? You have how many
Yes.
destinations do you have?
We have at the moment 6 cities. We are working in Brussels, in Vienna, in Sofia. In Croatia, we are in Zagreb and in Poreč on the coast. We also have apartments in Sarajevo in Bosnia, and prior to pandemics, we used to have apartments in Ljubljana in Slovenia.
Let's talk about the pandemic in a bit. How many people work in the company?
So at the moment, it's a little bit more than 40 people. It varies, again, by the seasons, because in some seasons we have more support staff, more operational runners and housekeepers. But the base of people is, let's say, 20, and then there is another 20 of the support, and then there is support to support, let's say.
Right. And so in terms of scaling, right? How you found your properties, because I mean, you're 2 years old. There's been the pandemic. You're on 150 properties. You mentioned real estate investors. How do you get them? How does that work? How do you scale that?
So this is actually a very wide topic for us, and again, it changed a lot with the time. So when we first started, it was much more about single unit owners, people who have 1 to 2 properties, and we were going out to them and going through agencies online, finding them, and cold outreach. And we were in the beginning, we were offering 2 models to them. One model is a classic master lease model in which we pay a fixed monthly rent, and the other model is profit sharing model in which we take the percentage of the earnings. But they were able to choose, obviously, the level of service they want from us. So they were able to say, okay, we only want the sales service from us. We don't need housekeeping. And with the time, and today it's mostly this, we grew, and we understood the needs of real estate investors, and we shifted more towards bigger real estate deals in which we could get more units or even buildings at the same time. And this has proven to be quite good for us, because we understood early on what the investors need, what is important to them. And we worked on creating a tech around it, creating a processes around it that really increase the transparency and make this journey less stressful for them. And it helped us to get the bigger projects. Recently, we completed the first building that we were doing, actually refurbishment of the building that we had in Vienna. And this together brings one level of consistency to the guests as well, because now we have the properties which we furnish from the day one. And especially for the business clients, it's quite important. And that's why we like to market ourselves today as a one-stop shop for investors, because we do everything from screening a property, finding opportunities, helping with the transaction, doing feasibility studies, concepts, construction supervision, and finally the management. And we really take the holistic approach and take care of everything. It's not that we shifted our model from property management to consulting. It's just that we increased the level of onboarding service that we have for real estate owners, and it has proven quite good for us. And it has been quite accelerated during COVID as well, because obviously the master lease model became unsustainable. It just doesn't work anymore. So we went from having 50% of our properties on master lease to only having 25% on the properties on master lease. And those properties are the ones where we either have long-term tenants or we have a stable demand from a corporate client, where we are sure that we will be able to generate the revenue needed to navigate this crisis.
I understand. Very good. You have managed to find a solution for some of the master lease anyway, because
it was a must.
Yeah. Some people have had real troubles with that. And so you mentioned tech. So that's obviously something that I'd like to hear about. You said you have you've created tech. Did I get that right?
Yes, we have a part that we created and part that we outsource.
Tell me all about it, please.
With pleasure. So tech is obviously, as it's for everyone, a very important aspect of our business. And in the beginning, it was quite overwhelming, I would say, to decide, okay, what you are going to build, because there was so many solutions out there. It was quite difficult. For us, one of the no-brainer was channel management. We realized soon it's so much work, so many different connections. And there is good solutions out there. Let's give it to someone. We chose Rentals United, and we did not regret it. It's a
looking back.
needless to say. And but we also realized that if we want to grow in a lean way, what we wanted to do to reinvest our profits, we actually needed a tech that follows our business model fully and which is customizable for us to be able to capture our business process and help us grow in it. And we started developing it 1 year ago, a little bit more. And since then we have we have daily dashboard with all arrivals, departures, customer relationship management, invoicing, payment processing, housekeeping management, task management for the employees on the first line, so for all the reparations, maintenance. And also we started incorporating business intelligence in it, so we have full reporting servers. And which is the most important for us is the property dashboard for property owners. So it's the interface which allows property owners to see everything about their property, from the occupancies, guest lists, revenues, future revenues. And it has been a game changer for us so far because it increased transparency quite a lot. And we are getting a good feedback for it. We want to move in the future as well to continue developing the tech. We are now working to integrate DocuSign to have the contactless signatures for the contracts, for the takeover forms, whatever. And then we also work to integrate the lead management system. And in some of the properties, we have the smart home system. Those are selected business-friendly properties. And as the final step, we want to put on the smart home, to integrate smart home and to be able to control it from our software. So this is more or less what's going on the tech side.
A lot. And
yeah.
And so how many programmers or developers are taking care of this?
So we have 3 full-time programmers that are part of our team, but depending on the scope of the task, we are taking on the extra in the teams. We are not in the rush with the development. As I said, we wanted to grow in the lean way, and we started quite early, which was good for us because it allowed us to grow slowly and to build feature by feature. But in the future, and especially after pandemics, when we realized, okay, so far how we grew, it might not be sustainable in the near term future. So we want to build tech even furtherly and to try to expand through tech, and maybe to try to create some joint ventures with the smaller companies in some specific markets which are unreachable for us, and to give our operational know-how, the real estate know-how, which is probably the biggest part of our business, and tech, and to increase our footprint even further.
Are we talking about becoming an affiliate? So
kind of yes. We want to offer to the smaller property managers. We want to offer joint ventures which actually make sense for them, in which they get the exposure, in which they get real estate connections, and also the base of the guests. And in the same time, we want to do it in the markets which are difficult for us to reach by our current methods, by direct entries. So it's still in the process. We are still kind of designing it and designing what's the actual idea that we are selling behind it. But it's definitely something that we plan in the future.
But aren't you going to need money for that? It sounds expensive.
Yes, we are going to need money, and that's why we are now in the process of Series A financing round. We want to raise some outside capital to accelerate the growth furtherly, because with such sharp drop in the supply that's going on in the market, I believe that there are so many great opportunities out there for the property managers who survive the crisis, obviously, but the ones who survive, I think, will be in great positions, because I think when demand really comes back, when we have the way to get around COVID, people would want to travel. We are in generation of people who like to travel, and it's part of the lifestyle. So I think the demand will pick up quite fast, and at least in the markets in which we operate, we've seen minimum of 30% supply drop.
30% supply in the
yes, in the markets which we operate. Yes.
The 8 markets that you operate.
Yes, 6 markets actually,
6
but
markets,
yes, and everywhere it's consistent of at least 30%. Somewhere a little bit more, somewhere a little bit below, but this is in general the end. Just to put it in perspective, those are the levels that were in 2014, 2015, the number of the properties in the market.
It's the wild, wild west of
yes.
finding product. Good for you. And so what I wanted to get at now was, you said you lost a market, right? So before we talk about what you learned and what your secret sauce is in terms of, you know, being one of the innovators during the crisis, tell me the mistakes. What happened to that one market?
There has been many of those. I actually don't. It's always our mistake. We lost the market, but this in the case of Ljubljana, it was more from the regulation standpoint, because the regulation there started to getting very rough, and we struggled quite a lot to comply with all the local regulations, and it was not that big of the market. And then with the breakout of COVID, we said, okay, we are struggling to move there because of the regulations. We will not be able to travel now, which will make things even more difficult. We cannot meet with the lawyers, we cannot go to the bank, and we said, okay, let's cut our losses and close the city. We learned a lot from it. Actually, it was first city closing for us, and there is a lot of processes to close the city. But I would say that our bigger mistake was not to take the financing in the early days. We wanted to go in the lean way and to grow by reinvesting the profits, which is great, which taught us a lot on one side, because first we understood how to make the company profitable, because without profits there is no growth. And on the other side, it also forced us to take on the different positions in the company and to really understand the operational side of the company. But I think if we took the financing in the earlier stage, the growth would be much faster. We would benefit from so many connections that we would make through this. But it's a lecture for the future.
Everything happens for a reason, Dino. It feels that now you're ready to scale with all that you've learned. So tell me about the last 6 months. So you said that obviously some of the master lease you gave up, which was the right thing to do. What other things did you do that you felt was really right in keeping the business alive?
Yeah, I would say that what you mentioned with the master leases, this was probably the most difficult things at those times, because it was a tough negotiation with everyone. Everyone is in kind of bad situation now, because it's difficult to find tenants during the pandemics, lockdowns. But we had supportive owners who really followed us through the process, who understand our position as well. So we went through it quite okay, I would say. On the other side, what was very difficult for us is as well the management of the employees. We have employees in 6 different countries. Many of our employees didn't even see each other so far. They don't know each other personally. And usually we are there, we go from markets to markets, we visit markets, we are there to talk with the real estate owners, to be there for employees. But this time it was impossible. So we really needed to innovate and to keep up to date constantly on what's going on, to keep the motivation there, because it's not an easy thing that you have a rush of work for. We went out from high season in December, and then at one moment you don't have anything. It's difficult for the morale, and it's difficult for us to manage employees. So we really needed to be creative when it comes to that. And the last thing is, of course, we use this time to improve some of the internal processes to kind of what we were leaving behind us and sacrificing for growth. We said, okay, now it's time to set everything up and to make those processes even better for the future. And we also worked on the crisis management and how to grow in the future, because it's we don't want to stop growing just because there is COVID, there is pandemics going on. We are going to put our pens down and just sit down like this. And because I think there is great opportunities out there, we signed some properties, because at the end we dropped some properties and we signed some properties, and we are staying on the same point where we were before the pandemics.
Negative churn, it's called.
Exactly. But we wanted to reach out to those owners who just started, who maybe don't have so much experience in the industry. And at the time like this, it's when you need the professional service the most. You need someone who knows how to capture the little of the demand that there is, and to fill out the properties even in the difficult times. And luckily we were able to find like-minded property owners and to grow during pandemics.
So there you go. We haven't spoken about marketing, and you said to fill in the property. So how did you manage that? Obviously, I had a look at your account on Manchester United. I can see you're doing good. But what was your strategy, cancellation policies, pricing? What did you do in terms of manage to fill the apartments?
So it was quite hectic at the time, especially with the cancellations, and depending on the country and the region, there was different cancellation policies for people from different parts of the world. So it took some time just to prepare. Okay, because we wanted to be fair towards the guests. We understand the guests' positions at this point as well, and it's not easy either to travel or to plan to travel, and the cancellations were going fast. But we were able, for some of them, for the guests who did not inform us on time, we needed to have charge cancellations. For some of them, we offered vouchers. All in all, we navigated through it. When it comes to the
Sorry. Did you change your cancellation policy for after that?
Yes. We made it a little bit more flexible now, especially during summer months, when it was from day to day that the regulations were changing. We realized, okay, we need to offer maximum flexibility to get at least some bookings, because there is no point of being stubborn and pushing one agenda when it doesn't make sense. But we also changed the mix of the channels that we use. We always had those midterm channels, but we really decided to accelerate this and to make our presence on those even better.
And that worked out for you?
It depends from case to case, but we are positively surprised with Rentberry. We had quite a lot of inquiries from there, and from a few other channels. We used a lot as well the local channels, which are typically more for the long-term rents. But we needed maximum visibility at that time to get as many properties filled as possible.
And so you rented some long-term? The master lease ones, right?
Yes, so we mostly exited out of, you mean we rented it out? Yes. We went to rent out everything, literally. At that point, we said, we are going to leave 10% of our supply that we have for short term when it starts recovering. Let's rent everything else. First focus was where we had fixed costs, because we didn't want to end the relationships with owners. We wanted to stay in those properties and wait for better days. But the only way to do this was to get someone in and have them stay there for at least 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, got you. And did you notice that the booking window is much more last minute? You're making short-term rental bookings at the moment, right? So they're very last minute? Yeah,
we always worked a lot with the last minute reservations. So, but yes, they are even, it's even more. We had quite a lot of reservations that were confirmed from before that were canceled. So we had to make up for those dates. So the reservations were mostly coming last minute, but it has been the case in the previous years as well. We have a lot of transit cities in which people just decide, okay, they are traveling maybe around the Balkans and they have been on the Croatian coast. They are driving back, let's say, to France, Germany, and they say, okay, we are going to stop in Zagreb for 2 nights because we want to see it, we want to experience it. And this is really the demand in the summer months that we have a lot.
Okay.
And now we'll see. Sorry, now we'll see with the September and corporate season how is it going to progress.
How it's picking up, and pricing. You just dropped your pricing, or what was the strategy with pricing?
It was again property by property, case by case. In general, yes, we dropped the prices at least 20 to 30% in some markets. For some properties, we didn't touch the prices because we still had a good demand. For some of the luxury properties, they have specific market segment that is not that
Affected,
price sensitive and not affected. But for some of the smaller properties, it's not that there is a lack of demand, it's that other properties on the market are going down with the prices, and to get the bookings, we needed to match this. But I don't necessarily agree that this is a right approach for anyone to take, including us.
Yeah, I know, because it's difficult to recover from it,
Yes.
as they say. Even though that this year has been quite, I mean, its own. We don't really have experience in this kind of crisis, but goody good. So, last question: if you had, one piece of advice for the property managers out there that are listening to us, what would it be?
It would definitely be hire the right people and follow the new trends. We've seen so many changes going on in the real estate industry in last 5 to 10 years, and I believe the next 10 years are bringing even more changes and more drastic changes in terms of the way people live, work, travel, and the companies that are able to recognize this and position themselves for this are the ones that are going to come out profitable out of it.
I like it. And the next business model. We have a downloadable called the next business model, which I encourage everybody to access, which basically talks about being flexible and mixing your short, mid, and long-term availability as much as you can, especially in terms of crisis. So great. Thanks so much, Dino. Amazing time with you. Thanks so much for being so transparent and opening up to me. And
thank you, Vanessa, for having me. Also, it has been a great pleasure, and thanks for all your efforts and all the materials that you are bringing out to the industry and in the ways that you bring industry together.
Thank you. Cheers. Thanks for that.
Thank you, Vanessa.
All right. So take care. Have a nice day. Cheers. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.